All right, so the question is, if the ATR goes flat, then if a bar touches the Woody pivots, take along. So, okay. Yeah, so since we're using a pivots indicator, yeah, I guess the shortcut would be to use the support resistance solver. So, right, so if you're using an indicator that has multiple plots, right, like a pivots, you could build a bunch of comparison solvers, right? You would need a comparison solver for each pivot line, so there is a little extra work in using comparison solver, but using a support resistance does offer a little shortcut there, since it can analyze all the pivot lines all within one solver. Let's do the ATR is flat first. All right, so let's add the ATR to the chart. There we go. Minimize that. And yeah, the ATR never goes flat. Well, all right, not on the NQ. Let's switch over to something a little slower, like the Russell. But that is an old contract. All right, let's try that. Yeah, even though the Russell doesn't really go flat. Well, let's see what we can figure out here to try and come up with a flat ATR. So we're going to need the slope solver, right, to determine if an indicator is flat-ish. All right. So there we go. We got the solver named. Again, that's the slope solver. So let's plug in the ATR indicator. There we go. Again, I'm just going to use the standard 14 period, like so. And we'll actually maybe, hold on. Yeah. Well, all right. Yeah, that helps. I'll just use a 50 period there. So that'll smooth out the ATR a little bit. All right, so getting back to our slope solver. Yeah, we'll adjust this to a 50 period ATR. All right. And so now we need to go into the slope rules. And let's change, right, the condition to flat and flat. And since the ATR runs on its own subpanel, right, it has its own scaling, it doesn't have ticks. So make sure that you're using points. And let's see, let's try 0.1. 0.1. And okay, that. All right. So 0.1 is a little too high of a number. Wow. All right, there we go. So I'm going to go with 0.015. So, yeah, so here we go. ATR definitely looks a little flat there, a little flat there. So, okay. So we'll go with that. And also, let's see if we have... Yeah, here we go. So we do have some bars touching the pivots indicator there while the ATR is flat. Okay, good. So we have flat ATR. And now let's set up the support resistance solver here. go. All right, so for the support resistance solver, we want to identify when price is near. That's, well, actually, hold on. The question is if a bar touches the Woody pivots. So, all right, details matter greatly. So the Woody pivots doesn't tell you if a bar is touching a pivot line. So actually, we're going to have to scrap the support resistance solver. And let me also delete it from this list. There we go. There. So actually, we have to go back to the comparison solver, as I mentioned earlier. There. All right. So with the comparison solver, input A will be price, and let's check the high price first, and then input B, that will be our pivots indicator. And actually, yeah, we'll go with the Woody pivots. And all right, so let's what indicator is that? Let's see. All right, yeah, I'll do the PP line. We can actually see that's up here on the chart. And then we'll do the R1 line next. There. All right, so the PP line is already selected. Again, remember to use the calculate from intraday data. Otherwise, you'll get an error if you don't. All right, and then in the comparison rules, we want to make sure that the high price is greater than, right, or above the Woody Pivots PP line. And we're going to make sure that for the short output, the high price is also greater than, right? Oh, wait, actually, hold on. Oh, hold on. Let me make an adjustment here. Yeah, so for input A, we're going to use high price and low price there. Yeah, I was gonna build this a slightly different way, but I guess I'll go back to the traditional way that I do this. So, all right, so the high price needs to be greater than the Woody Pivots line, and the low price needs to be less than or below the Woody Pivots line. And let's scroll back. Here we go. Right, so here we can see there's a couple of bars that is touching the PP line, and down here in BloodHound we can see we're getting a long and a short at the same time, right? A long because the high is above the pivots, and a short because the low price is below the PP line. So, and let's get a name in here before we go too far. Alright, so back to the outputs here, right? So when there's a long and a short at the same time on the same bar, right, those are the bars touching the PP line. So we only want to see those bars with a long and a short at the same time. So we can now use a function node to isolate the bars with a long and short at the same time. So we're going to use the long and short modifier. And, you know, there's a couple of ways we could do this. You could use the minus. You could use the minimum. But I always go for product for some reason, right? But so with product mode, right, there we go. All we see are the bars with a long and a short, and those are the bars, right, touching the PP line there. So there we go. And there we go. Put it on product. And so now the last step is to combine all of these solvers together with an AND node. And let's see what we got. Oh, there we go. All right, there. Now, what was wanted was a long signal to take a long trade there, right? So we're getting a long and a short output at the same time, because when an indicator is flat, that doesn't indicate a market direction, right? And also if a bar touches a PP line, or if a bar touches anything, again, that doesn't indicate any kind of market direction. So what we have to do is take one of these solvers here, and in this case, in this case, it's going to have to be the slope solver here, and we're going to take that and adjust the evaluate so that it only gives us a long output. Right, so there we go. So whenever the ATR is flat, we only get a long output now. So now when we look at the AND node, now we only see long signals. All right, so the ATR is not flat right there. And all right, let's do one more for the S1 line. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to copy these nodes here, and then let's paste them down here, like so. And so we're going to go into this comparison solver, and we're going to adjust input B, right? We're going to adjust the Woodies Pivots indicator so that we're now analyzing S1. Right? So we would have to do this for every pivot line there. Right? So I'm just going to give an example of doing just 2 of the pivot lines, right? But you would need, these solvers here for every pivot line in order to have, in order to analyze all of the pivot lines there. So now let's add another AND node. We can connect in our ATR flat solver, and then connect in that. And if we take a look, yeah, there we go. All right, so there's a couple of bars there, right? Where the ATR is flat, and those bars are touching the S1 line there, right? And so next, we need an OR node, so we can combine all the different pivot lines together. There we go. All right, so we have this AND node is telling us, right, when is giving us a signal when the PP line, right, is touched. This other AND node down here is telling us when the S1 line is being touched, right? Because this comparison solver, right, is analyzing the S1 line. Let's change the name here. There we go. There. All right. Right. So there. Yep. Right. So we have one comparison solver and long short modifier, right? One for the PP line, another one for the S1 line, right? And then of course the ATR being flat is common to all of the AND nodes. And so you would just, just create a bunch more AND nodes here for the other pivot lines and just rinse and repeat there. Right? So I guess, yeah, just for good measure, I can quickly make another one here. And we'll switch this over to S2. So go into input B, go into the Woodies indicator here, and now we're going to select S2. There we go, like so. And let's see, yeah, there we go. So now S2 is included in the mix. And make sure we get all the names changed here for these nodes there. All right, so there you go, Aaron. Just do this logic here, as a template, and just kind of recreate, right, each of these comparison, long short modifier, and AND nodes for each of the pivot lines that you want to analyze there, and then connect them all into the OR node.